Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Present, Ben and Destiny, at the cabin. We watched as the greenies hauled Yints and others out of the tunnels. They were bagged, tagged, and taken toward the concertina wire prison. I was pissed as hell and wish I had blown mics, but to hell in the porta potty. However, right now, I need to help Stacy and the others escape before the greenies get back with Yints, so I blow the hell out of a fence post and the concertina wire and smile as Stacy, Linus, and a couple of younger Marines haul away from the compound and toward the trees. Present, Stacy escaped. Ben blows the hell out of a fence post and then actually shoots the concertina wire in two as Linus exclaims, "That was a hell of a shot." The wire spools up in both directions, leaving us a hell of a hole to walk through. But I'm not about to waste time walking. I take off running toward the trees, away from the tunnel excavation site, and yell, "Try to keep up with me." Linus commands, "Hey, get your butt back here. You don't know where you're going." I yell over my shoulder, "Like hell I don't. I've studied all the maps of this area, and I know it like the back of my hand. Now move your butt before they catch us." If I can only get far enough away to use the mobile phone I have hidden on me. Present, Ben and Destiny, at the cabin. Destiny goes into one of her trances, comes out of it, and shocks me when she informs me, "Ben, we need to enter the tunnels." I stuttered, "Wha? What the hell do you mean, enter the tunnels? That's the worst idea I can think of. Hell, if we try that foolhardy act, we might as well march down to Mike and surrender." She gives me a defiant look and explains, "Ben, Ivan is still in the tunnels, and he's scared. I told him to be calm because we would come and get him." Shit. Talk about being between a rock and a proverbial hard place. I ask, how the hell did the greenies miss him? I thought for a moment and continue before Destiny can answer. "Wait, you don't need to answer that. They are greenies and he's Jack's boy." Destiny annoyingly confirms anyway. "That's right. Jack taught him to hide when bad things or bad men come." I smile because Jack trained Ivan so well and add, "And of course they are greenies and only did a half job searching the tunnels, so they missed him. But we still have the problem of how the hell we get into the tunnels without the greenies catching us." I am shocked by what Destiny offers. Present, Yints, in the CSH. After they put the hood over my head, I wonder where the hell Ivan is. Oh well, I think any place is better than being treated like this. I'm not sure where the hell they are taking me, but I hear some moans and complaints and wonder if it's my Marines that have been wounded. They finally take the hood off me and a man in a white coat says, "We're moving you into your bed. Don't help us because I don't want you injuring yourself more. By the way, someone did an excellent job treating you." I look around and I'm shocked. It's not my Marines that are moaning, it's injured special forces. The doctor and nurse begin to move me. I bite my tongue because of the pain and let out a giant sigh. The doctor asks, "When was the last time you received something for pain?" They get me moved so I can breathe again and answer, "Of course I would like something for pain. However, I won't take anything for pain. By the way, what happened to all the troops?" The doctor gives me a knowing look and answers, "I understand you were addicted in the past and don't want to go through that again. We can give you something else besides morphine. And whoever the tango is that our troops are after has more devious booby traps than anyone I've known. Thank God whoever it is isn't killing them, but they sure are messing up their legs and feet." I fight back a smile because that's my Ben. Then I see someone coming toward me. Not them. Present, Mike, at the CSH. I crawled into the nearest tent when I suddenly felt something biting me. I quickly checked and realized I hadn't gotten all the red ants off me. My legs were covered in them, and they were biting like crazy. For once, I was almost grateful that I couldn't feel anything in my legs. I swatted them off with my hands, but then I realized they had gotten into my clothes as well, biting everywhere. I finally managed to get rid of them, but my legs were covered in welts. Finally, one of the special forces guys showed up, and I let him have it. "Where the hell have you all been? Help me get my clothes back on, and take me to the medical tent." The private responds, "Yes, sir, but perhaps I should get rid of the rest of the ants first?" I complain, "Of course you should. That's why I had my clothes off in the first place." He began taking the rest of them off me, turns me over on my stomach, and says, "Sir, they are all over your butt, and I'm not positive, but some of them might have crawled up your a-hole. That's one of the problems of not having feeling in the lower part of my body. There is no muscle control." I order, "Private, get me to the CSH immediately." He pulls up my pants, picks me up, and carries me to the CSH. He puts me on a gurney, and I command, "Get me a doctor and tell the captain I want to see him immediately." He takes off like his butt was on fire. I am sure mine would be if I had feeling in it. The doctor comes over, and I inform him. The scumsucker tango blew the wheel off one of my wheelchairs. I fell in a red anthill, and while I thought I had gotten all of them off me, I realize I didn't, and now I'm covered with bites. He calls over a nurse. They begin to take off my clothes, and the doctor says, "Sir, you still have some of them on you, and we can't afford to have them in the CSH biting the other patients." Nurse take him outside, take off all his clothes, and make sure to remove all the ants. She wheels me outside, strips off all my clothes, and of course the captain chooses that time to arrive. He questions, "Sir, what happened to you?" I am pissed as hell and lay into him. "You're what happened to me. You took all the men for your assault on the tunnel, and our scumsucker Tango shot the wheel off my brand new wheelchair. I fell into a red anthill, and they bit the hell out of me." The captain begins to respond, then one of my worst nightmares appears. Present, Mira, at the CSH. Alexei awakens from his slumber, surveys the CSH and questions, "Mira, what is happening?" I smile at him and respond, "It would appear that my Ben has been very busy. Many Special Forces troops have arrived with foot and leg injuries for treatment at this facility." I check my sister Ira and her new boyfriend Todd. They both seem to be stronger and resting well, so I state, "Alexei, I need to acquire sustenance for us. Please stand watch while I perform this duty." He takes up his post, and I begin to leave to find the tent of mess. I walk outside the CSH and am surprised when I oculate our adversary Mike. Oh, natural. I recognize this as a unique tactical and strategic opportunity. I transverse to his location, grin and taunt. "Mike, it is good to see you again, but what in Hades befell you? It appears you have many Paganomermex Barbatus stings. Did my Ben perform an action which precipitated this?" The captain foolishly complains, "Sir, should I put her in with the other prisoners?" I continue my verbal assault. "Yes, Mike, my government would love to hear we were treated incorrectly should we make this an international incident." I present my limbs forthwith toward the captain for shackling, smile, and oculate Mike's visage crimson to a degree which I have never experienced before. He glumly responds, "No, Captain, Miranda is correct. We cannot place her in custody." I physically relocate the captain so he does not impede my progress and locomotivate toward the tent of mess. However, I oculate something astounding, realize what it is, and retreat back inside the safety of the CSH. Present, Ben and Destiny, at the cabin. I have no idea how in the hell I am supposed to enter the tunnels without being captured, and being captured is the last thing I want. If Mike gets his hands on me, I will permanently disappear. Then Destiny surprises the hell out of me by offering, "Ben, I will act as a decoy and get the greenies to chase me. While I have them occupied, you slip into the tunnels and rescue Ivan." It's a brave but foolhardy plan, and I ask, "What if you get caught?" Destiny simply answers, "Ben, they will not catch me." I think for a moment, then I get a great idea and suggest, "Well, how about we give them a little diversion first, and while they are trying to clean that up, you take off and distract them." Destiny smiles and asks, "Ben, what do you have in mind?" I grin and answer, "We need to get to one more weapons cache, and you will see." We haul. It's a short distance. I pick up several things, give some earplugs to Destiny, and order, "Plug your nostrils with these, and only breathe through your mouth." I plug my nostrils. While Destiny plugs her nostrils, I set up the water balloon slingshot between two trees and put on some rubber gloves. Then I pull out a bunch of balloons, a couple of bottles, and begin to fill the balloons. Destiny complains, "Ben, what is that terrible odor?" I question, "I thought you had the earplugs in your nostrils." She nods her head. "I do, but I can still smell that through the plugs." Damn, she must have some sort of superhuman ability to smell. Then I remember her crawling around and sniffing to determine where to put the Tabasco bottle IDs, and I again wonder if she's part dog. I reply, "Sorry about that, I don't smell a thing." This lovely concoction was created by Israel and is called skunk. It's a completely organic yeast-based mixture that's actually safe for consumption if you're really thirsty or truly stupid, and is the vilest smelling mixture in the world. Normally, it's dispensed as a mist from a water cannon, but because we can't afford to get that close, I'm going to use these water balloons filled with it. I finish filling the balloons and continue, "Let me launch a few of these, then you can take off, and I will continue our assault on their noses. Once the greenies are chasing you, I will slip into the tunnels, rescue Ivan, and will meet you back at the bunker." I start launching the skunk-filled balloons into the compound. I love it when a plan comes together and all hell breaks loose. Present, Mike, at the CSH. The captain points to the sky and questions, "What the hell is that?" We watch as what appears to be a water balloon arcs in toward our compound, and I answer, "I sure as hell don't like this." It hits the ground. The balloon breaks and the air is filled with, "Son of a bitch." I yell, "Shit, the scumsucker Tango is using skunk against us." "Captain, we can follow the balloon's trajectory and locate his position." I see some of the men already retching from the smell. The captain commands, "Half my men, form on me, and let's get this scumsucker." The balloons continue to fly while I watch and try to figure out what the hell he's doing and order, "Nurse, he's walking the balloons toward us." Move your butt and get me back inside immediately. As she begins to move me inside, I see a woman running away from the direction the balloons are coming from. Damn, it's Ben's accomplice, but at least the captain also sees the woman and diverts to go after her. Present, Ben, at the cabin. Now this was too much fun. I only wish I could have hit Mike with one of these, but while I was working toward that, the nurse hauled him back inside. I changed tactics and launched the rest of my skunk balloons against the tents and choppers, making sure to hit the mess tent with 2 of my missiles. While I'm providing aerial entertainment, Destiny takes off like her, but is on fire across the edge of the compound. The captain sees her and diverts his group to chase her, but I am shocked because she must have kicked it into overdrive and leaves them like they are standing still. I head toward the tunnel excavation site and hope like hell there aren't any guards. Present, Liz and Samantha, taken prisoner. I've had my fill of Samantha's insubordination toward any information about Stacy. She knows how important it is to find Ben and yet refuses to give us any information concerning his location she might have gleaned from Stacy. I glare at Samantha and demand, Samantha, just who in the hell do you work for? Is your loyalty toward the Truth Network or Stacy Summers? Because to tell you the truth, I'm not sure anymore. I can tell by the body language and the tone of Liz's voice that she's angry at me. I wish Stacy was here right now to help me through this, but I walk over to Liz and answer, Liz, I work for the Truth Network. However, while doing my job as a reporter, I made a promise to Stacy that I wouldn't divulge any information about Ben's location. And to be truthful, isn't any information about Ben's location a little late now seeing that we know he is here? Bernie comes over and counsels, come on Liz, Samantha is only doing what she feels is right, and she actually reminds me of you. I hate to say it, but Bernie is right, and that's the problem. Jens is my BFF, and if I'm not mistaken, Stacy is Samantha's BFF. I look at Samantha and order, okay Samantha, I understand you can't reveal any information to us that you get from Stacy. However, the door swings both ways, so don't you dare reveal any information to Stacy that you get from us. It looks like Samantha was going to say something when we see some trucks drive up. Present, Zarika and Yasmin escape. Yasmin started throwing some of the trash out of this ugly box car and became lucky when a big bag of trash forced the police car to swerve and crash into another car. I see a chance and quickly take an exit off the big fast road. Yasmin comes back to the front seat and asks, Zarika, where are we? I read a sign and answer, someplace called Idaho Springs. Yasmin begins to laugh and says, Idaho? I correct, no Idaho. She giggles even more brazenly and says, that's right Zarika, Idaho. I finally understand what she's saying and complain, Yasmin, I am not a hoe, and I'm not sure why someone would name something that silly name. Yasmin announces, Zarika, I am hungry. Let us stop at the restaurant. I question, do we have enough money? Yasmin answers, we might not have enough cash, but we do have the mean nurse's plastic card. We pull into the restaurant, go inside, and the food smells wonderful. Present, Byron, Tom, and Inga. It's raining hell on the drug lord. Finally, it's over. All the drug lord's men are dead. I calm Tom. Well, this mission was a bust. He replies, it certainly was. I think the drug lord was gone long before we got here. Inga joins in. I agree. This was just a delaying tactic to distract us. So what are we going to do now? Tom answers, hell, I hate to say it, but I think it's time to head back to America. I agree. That's fine with me. I've had my fill of this country. Inga questions, well, what about me? Flashback, Jack, in Moscow. I just told Ben about Major M coming back to Moscow, and he reacted even worse than I expected he would. His reaction made me question what in the hell Ben had planned, so I asked him, and he answered, Jack, when I get the feeling back in my legs, I'm going to leave and take out the rest of those Chechen terrors. I knew my face showed the shock about this information, so I asked, just how in hell do you plan on getting Major M or the Russian officers to approve this mission? Ben didn't give me his silly grin, and his face became more serious than I've ever seen as he replied, screw Major M and double screw the Russian officers. I'm not going to ask their permission. I'm just going to do it. Hell's bells. This was the last thing I wanted to hear. I was just getting ready to settle down with Masha, and Ben planned on doing something crazy that would screw up everything. I complained, well, going AWOL might be fine for you, but what the hell about me? Ben smiled and said, don't worry, Jack. You're going to stay here, marry Masha, and run interference for me. I tried to figure out what was going to be worse, going with Ben or staying here and catching all the shit from one of his crazy schemes when the door opened. Flashback, Tatiana, in Moscow. I opened the door to Ben's room and immediately knew something was wrong since Jack and Ben were more serious than I had ever seen them. Hell, usually they were laughing about things, most of the time something Ben said or did to me. However, their normal jovial mood was replaced with solemn faces, so I hid my anger at Ben's earlier comments and asked, what is wrong? You two look like you are going to a funeral. Ben faked a smile and related a very obvious lie. Nothing that concerns you, Tatiana. Jack turned, looked at me, and added, I just informed Ben that Major M is coming back. Things had finally settled into a manageable state, and I knew that if the Major showed up, he'd turn everything upside down. I needed to go over this new information with Masha and figure out our next steps. Keeping my expression calm, I said with a smile, that's a conversation for later. Right now, I need to take Ben to his PT. Ben grinned and replied, already did my PT in the room. I shot him a sharp look, momentarily assuming he was referring to something else. He chuckled and clarified, relax, Tatiana. I meant actual PT, 100 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, and a few hundred sit-ups. Jack laughed at the misunderstanding, which only made me blush more, and added, that's right. When I came in, he was doing pull-ups. I turned to Ben with a glare. You're not following the doctor's orders. You could hurt yourself. Ben, ever defiant, laughed and replied, forget the doctors, and double forget the physical therapists. They have no idea what my body needs. It was time for me to turn the tables on Ben, so I resorted to a traditional proverb. One man's meat is another man's poison. Literal. What is good to a Russian is death for a German. I became very frustrated when Ben smiled and replied, the tongue speaks, but the head doesn't know. I should have known better. Ben somehow knew all the traditional Russian sayings. Every time I used one with him, he came up with something better. I used my stern nurse voice and commanded, Ben, you are coming to physical therapy. He smiled at me. I loved when he did that, and surprisingly complied. Okay, Tatiana, have it your way. We'll see you later, Jack. Cut back on the food you're eating, and don't take those fries out of the trash. I am amazed at how well he got into his wheelchair and longed for the time when he wouldn't need it, and we could walk hand in hand back to my place on the cold, snowy Moscow nights. I escorted him out of the room, closed the door, and the first thing he asked was, Tatiana, how is it coming with Masha and Jack's wedding? I looked back at the door to Ben's room, so he added, don't worry, Tatiana. Even though I told him not to, Jack is taking the fries out of the trash and will be busy eating them. I gladly gave Ben a report on all I've done. When I finished, Ben praised me, and I felt wonderful. Then he ruined it when he asked, you never did tell me what Masha sold to come up with the money to bribe Elena. I was glad I talked to Masha about this, and even gladder that Ben couldn't see my face when I replied, she sold her car. Like I knew he would, he questioned, really, what sort of car was it? I smiled and confidently answered, it was a Citroën DS. I could tell Masha had made a mistake when Ben got excited and exclaimed, that's a great car. It's probably one of the most futuristic and best cars ever built. It had a hydropneumatic, self-leveling suspension, so tell me what it was like riding in it. Shoot, this wasn't going at all like it was supposed to. Ben was supposed to hate the car and not ask any questions. I lied through my teeth. The ride was incredible, even on the Moscow streets which are plagued by frost heaves. Ben unfortunately continued with his questions. So what year was it, and what color was it? I was glad Ben could not see my face, or he would know I was obviously lying. I created my facts and replied, it was a 1970 and was light blue. Ben continued his questioning onslaught. Damn, that means it had the higher horsepower motor with the Weber 32 twin-body carburetor and produced 83 horsepower. Tell me what it was like when Masha shifted it, because it didn't have a clutch pedal like most cars. I was totally baffled and said, Ben, I am really not sure what you were talking about. You will need to ask Masha this question and any further questions because I don't know how to drive. I could sense the disappointment in Ben's voice when he finally relented on the questions and apologized. Sorry about all the questions, but that happens to be one of my favorite cars, and I would have loved to ride in one. I inwardly smiled and knew that Masha was going to have an even worse time than I did the next time she encountered Ben. We arrived at the physical therapy department, and Ben once again complained, Tatiana, can you please tell these scumsuckers I need a more strenuous program? I had suffered enough from Ben and determined it was time to inflict some of my own agony, so as I left him I declared, sorry Ben, but you need to follow the doctor's orders. Flashback? Yents, at the military hospital. I walked into my room, took one look at the messed up bed, walked over to it, and you gross. I pressed the call button. Katie came into my room and asked, Jennifer, what do you need? I pointed at the bed and asked, Katie, is that a used prophylactic in my bed? Katie walked over, looked at the offending article, and answered, yes, Jennifer, it is. I put on my best prima bitcherina attitude and complained, Katie, how in the heck did that get in my bed? In fact, how in the heck did my bed get so messed up? She thought about her response and then said, Jennifer, I hate to tell you this, but 2 of your friends stopped by while you were at the emergency room. I was sure who it was, but I hoped it wasn't. So I asked, which of my so-called friends were visitors? Katie gave me the worst possible answer when she said, it was Robert and Megan. Oh, but I'm sure they didn't have sex in your bed. After Megan's response earlier, I knew better. She and Robert had sex in my bed. I became the prima bitcherina and ordered, Katie, I refuse to sleep on this bed and new sheets are not going to cut it. This is your frickin' fault, and I want a new bed. Katie waffled and answered, Jennifer, I'm not sure I can do that. I was pissed and said, then I want to speak with the nursing supervisor on duty. Perhaps she will take this more seriously than you seem to be capable of. Katie looked totally miserable and tried to console me. Jennifer, if you give me a chance, I will fix this. I reiterated, Katie, the only way to fix this is for me to get a new bed. Robert is a pervert, has slept with many girls, and I don't want to catch any diseases that he might have. You will get me a new bed, or you will let me talk with the nursing supervisor on duty. Katie looked defeated and said, okay, I will see what I can do. She started to leave and I continued, don't see what you can do. Just get me a new frickin' bed. Katie left and I couldn't believe that my BFF had done this to me. The audacity to have sex with Robert in my bed. I opened my computer, wrote Megan a nasty email and told her to never come and visit me again. I also lied to her and told her the prophylactic had a tear in it and had leaked all over the sheets. A new email came in and I couldn't frickin' believe it. I was going to respond to it when someone knocked on the door and a person I hadn't noticed came into the room. Flashback? Alexei, in the laboratory sometime later. I pretended to be asleep and listened to the conversation between my parents and the psychologist. My father stated, I am not sure I like the new symptoms Alexei is displaying. Now he is acting like a canine. Mother concurred, yes, it is upsetting. I thought he was cured only to have my hopes extinguished as he exhibited these new symptoms. The psychologist calmed both of them when he said, both of you are overreacting to Alexei's new symptoms. I see the new psychosis of acting like a dog to be a great step forward. It is certainly not annoying like his previous symptoms. Father commented, you are correct. We could not tolerate it when Alexei repeated everything we said. Mother added, yes, I was ready to spank him with a belt. The psychologist scolded my mother. There is no physical punishment which will be effective in situations such as his. After careful consideration, I am certain that his mental instability is not caused by anything organic. I feel that his problems are caused by a lack of love and scientific coldness in the manner you have raised him. Father questioned, are you sure that my treatments have not precipitated his mental breakdown? The psychologist confirmed, I have carefully reviewed the drugs which you have been giving Alexei, consulted with many of my colleagues, and we all concur that Alexei's problems are not associated with any of the drugs which you have administered to him. His problems are a manifestation of the lack of love and emotional warmth in your home. Mother attacked, I do not concur with your assumptions. Alexei has been blessed to have us for his parents, and we have personally shown him more love than we share with each other. The psychologist said, he did this when he was upset, and countered, yes, that is part of the problem. You must consider that Alexei is old enough to realize everything in your household is not copacetic. In fact, in view of his psychological problems, I think we need to seriously consider removing him from your household. Unless you two can rectify your relationship problems, he would be better served living here. Father greatly complained. Such an action would only happen over my dead body. I decided I had heard enough, so I feigned waking, stretched just as a dog always stretches before they get up, looked at my parents and asked, Father and Mother, I am hungry. Can we go home and get something to eat? I would really like some pelmeni. Mother glared at the psychologist and triumphantly announced, see, I told you your assumptions were incorrect since he wants to return home with us. Father answered me, yes, son, we will leave for home immediately and we'll buy some pelmeni on the way home. We left for home in our car. To further confound the situation, on our journey, I rolled down the window and stuck my head outside. Flashback, Ira, Mira, and Safia, in Israel. To verbalize my jealous reaction would be a statement under. Our first real mystery arrived, and it was Myra's day to function as Sherlock Holmes. I recognized that even without the silly Sherlock accoutrements of a deerstalker cap and the magnifying optic, I performed the Sherlock role more admirably. We dashed to the kitchen, Mira flung the door open, and we proceeded to pounce, not literally, upon the Mrs. Hudson, whom they called the cook. Sherlock held up the magnifying optic and questioned. We surprised the Mrs. Hudson. I observed her with my magnifying optic and questioned. It has come to our attention that AITA might have provided you with fiscal incentive to increase the quantity of sustenance which you provide. Mrs. Hudson looked flummoxed, then Safia, our Baker Street irregular, assisted. The cook was obviously confused, and I couldn't blame her for not understanding Mira since it was normally all I could do to fully fathom her. However, I knew if I didn't help the cook answer in a timely manner, Mira would order me to shoot her with the BB gun. I looked at the cook and translated. Mira wants to know if AITA has paid you to give him extra food. I was surprised at what the cook did next. My interrogation technique worked perfectly as fear crossed the Mrs. Hudson's face, and she confessed, "Please do not kill or hurt me. Yes, I have been buying and giving Ackham much more food than what you ordered for his diet." I consulted Watson. "Dr. Watson, what punishment do you feel the Mrs. Hudson deserves?" Sherlock consulted me. However, I was still quite cross, so I answered, "I think she should be terminated." Mrs. Hudson began to bray and begged, "Please do not kill me." Safia surprised us when she provided a reasoned solution. This had gone too far. There was no way I was going to let the twins fire the cook. It was hard to find good cooks, and she was a very good cook. Plus, the twins scared the crap out of her. When Ira said, "Terminate the cook," she thought they meant kill her. I interrupted, "Sherlock and Dr. Watson, is it not better to get Mrs. Hudson to promise not to feed Ackham any extra food than to find a new cook and have to start all over again?" Sherlock scanned me with her magnifying glass, turned to Dr. Watson and stated, "Dr. Watson, I do believe the Baker Street Irregulars idea has merit." Ira, still in a snit, replied, "I still think that termination is the proper solution." I became bold and confronted Ira. "Well, if you fire her, then which one of you would take over cooking duties?" "I would suggest that you check the amount spent on food each week. Then she can't buy any extra food for Ackham." Mira smiled and stated, "Once again, our Baker Street Irregular has given us 2 pieces of valued advice." "Dr. Watson, I do not care to assume the Mrs. Hudson's duties, do you?" Ira answered, "Certainly not, Sherlock. You know that the Mrs. Hudson always does the cooking for us." Mira decided, "Then it is settled. The Mrs. Hudson, you may keep your current job. Our primary Baker Street Irregular will be responsible to assure that you do not provide any extra food to Ackham. However, Dr. Watson, we still have the rest of the Baker Street Irregulars, what they called the young soon-to-be wives, to interrogate. Quick, Dr. Watson, the game is still afoot." I was totally shocked at what happened next. Flashback, Todd, on the island. I got away from the massed troops and hauled as fast as I could. I could hear them behind me and was thankful that I had been running the jungle with Lou and had learned to identify her traps. The massed troops were not so lucky, and the traps I bypassed started to capture them. There still wasn't any time to slow down as I had no weapons and needed to get away. I ran my butt off until present, Ben, at the cabin. So far, our plan to get Ivan out of the tunnels was working great. I bombarded the hell out of the greenies with skunk balloons, but the wind was in my face, forcing the fumes back toward me. It was getting so bad I could smell it with my nose plugs in, and it was beginning to make my eyes water. Then Destiny ran across the edge of the clearing, and all the greenies chased her. Now it was my turn to see if I was still the sneaky son of a bitch I used to be when I was in the Corps. Hell, there was a time I could have snuck into a monastery, right into the Mother Superior's room, stole a kiss, and escaped without her even waking. But that was years ago, and I was younger and more fit. Yeah, I hate to say it, but time had not been kind to me. I was slower and less stealthy than I used to be. I stopped at another weapons cache, picked up my ghillie suit, already set up with natural camo for the area, and an experimental close-quarters weapon which should take care of anyone I might meet without killing them. Yeah, I probably should just kill the scumsuckers, but what Destiny had been preaching to me made some sense. It would not serve any real purpose. Besides, once I killed one of the greenies, it would really piss off the rest. I put on the ghillie suit, ready my weapon, fire one test round, almost silently, and work my way toward the tunnel excavation site. Then I saw something that was going to complicate things. Present, Stacy escaped. I couldn't believe that Linus worried about me keeping up with him. The young Marines and I had to slow down, so we didn't lose him, and it earned him some teasing. "Come on, you fat, slow seal. I thought you all were the best of the best. Get the lead out and move it." He complains, "Hey, you haven't been shackled for days, so shut up before I kick your butt." I laugh to egg him on and counter his comments. "That's right, I haven't. But I was preggers for over a month, still carry some baby weight from that, and I can still outrun your fat butt." Finally, my phone begins to beep, so I slow down and stop. Linus catches up, and after sucking air for a few moments, questions, "What's going on?" I look around while he and the other Marines are standing around looking at me, so I order, "You all need to turn your back to me, so I can get my mobile phone." One of the Marines asks, "Why the hell is that?" I grin at him and reply, "Because I put it somewhere only my boyfriend or husband will get to see." Now turn around and face the other way. Present, Linus escaped. Shit, Stacy is right. I need to get off my butt and run more. I'm having a hell of a time running, and even though we are at a high altitude, I don't really believe that's the only problem. Stacy finally stops, and I can't believe it. She had hidden her phone in a place no one would think to check. We turn away from her, and I take my turn to tease. "Well, I sure wouldn't want to use a phone if it was hidden somewhere like that." The Marines burst into laughter, and Stacy, rolling her eyes, responds, spoken like a brain-dead seal, "I didn't hide it anywhere gross. I tucked it safely in my waistband, and none of the Special Forces guys were brave enough to search me there. One of the Marines joins in, smirking. Did you at least put it on silent? Stacy shuts him down immediately. Present, Stacy escaped. One of the Marines tries to get frisky with me, so I put him in his place. Listen, Jarhead. If I did put the phone on vibrate, it would have given me more excitement than you ever could. The other Marines laugh, but now that I have my mobile phone, I say, all right, you can turn around. Linus asks a bonehead question. What are you going to do with that? I glare at him and answer, I'm calling some senators and congressmen and plan on having them lock up that scumsucker Mike. I begin to make phone calls when one of the Marines says, I think I see some movement in the trees. I hang up my call before it's complete and order, follow me. And we take off running again. Present, Samantha, taken prisoner. We see trucks drive up and the men are immediately surrounded by the Special Forces and detained. Then one of them opens the horse trailer and Bo, Patches, and Wojciech come flying out of the trailer. The stupid Special Forces begin firing at Wojciech, and he takes off for the trees. I begin yelling, hey you idiots, that Wojciech. Then something amazing happens. Present, Ben, at the cabin. I start to head into the tunnels when son of a bitch. Some trucks, one with a horse trailer, pull into the Greenies compound, so I stop to observe. The men get out and are immediately surrounded by the Greenies. Then one of the Greenies opens the trailer and Bo, Patches, and even Wojciech haul out of the trailer. Then the son of a bitch Greenies begin to shoot at Wojciech, which is the final straw. I run back to my Barrett and begin to fire at the feet of the Greenies who are firing at Wojciech. They start dancing around, and as Charlie Daniels would say in a song, that had them all steppin' and fetchin' like their heads were on fire, and their butts were catchin', and finally they dove into the dirt. Once I am sure Wojciech is a safe distance away, I hightail it for the tunnels, get there, and notice a couple of guards. It's time to see if this prototype weapon works worth a shit. I put it in the non-lethal mode, pointed at one of the guard, wait until it ranges him, and then fire. The beanbag hits him in the head, and he drops like a sack of potatoes. The other guard appears to be sleeping, so I point the variable velocity weapon system at him. Wait until it ranges him, and make sure he's going to keep sleeping. I slip into the tunnel complex and wonder at the work Jens had done. Present, Jens, in the CSH. I just get rested in my bed in the CSH when I see her walk toward me. I wish like hell I had a weapon because I'm certainly not in any condition to defend myself, let alone fight her. She walks toward me like a feral cat stalking its prey, grins at me and questions, Ms. Donaldson, you seem to be injured. I glare at her and counter, hello Miranda, why are you in the CSH? Because you don't seem to be injured. However, as you can see, I am not at my best, so if you came here to kill me, I won't be able to put up much of a fight. She looks at me and replies, yes, with your chest wound, I would have little difficulty killing you. She reaches out, grabs my foot, yes, the one that was shot, and squeezes the hell out of it. I fight back without showing her any sign of the intense pain she's causing me. Instead, I smile and lie through my teeth. Why, Miranda, I didn't know you were into the sadomasochism, which Ben enjoys for foreplay. She releases my foot, thank God, grins, and obviously lies. Yes, Ms. Donaldson, Ben and I enjoyed it frequently in the past. The doctor walks up, takes one look at Miranda, and questions, why are you bothering my patient? Miranda gives him one of her devastating smiles and says, I was giving my condolences to an old friend. She giggles, turns, walks away, and the doctor asks, why would she give you her condolences? I look at the doctor and say, if she gets her way, I won't live to see tomorrow. I could really use some protection. He watches her walk away and then remarks, I can't believe that polite young lady would be a threat to anyone, let alone capable of harming someone. We're short on staff, but I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, I have your pain medicine. It's not morphine. While I am in extreme pain, there's no way I can afford to diminish my already hobbled physical functions. I wave my hands and refuse. Doctor, she's an assassin, and I'm not sure if anyone knows how many people she's killed. And there's no way I can take that now because I need my full wits about me in case she comes back. If you can't provide me with a guard, how about moving me in with the other men? He shakes his head and informs me, sorry, my orders are to keep you separated from everyone. I figured as much, but I still ask, and who's the rocket scientist who gave those orders? I hear a voice from behind him that I hate even more than Miranda's. Present, Mike, at the CSH. I finally get all the ants off me. The nurse puts some salve on the bites, and a private brings me my last new wheelchair. I hop into it and roll to where they put Jennifer Donaldson. It's time that I interview her. I arrive in time to hear her request that we provide a guard or to move her in with the other patients. As I move past the doctor, I declare, Jennifer Donaldson, whether you get a guard or not depends on your level of compliance. She glares at me and asserts, Mike, I demand that you leave my property immediately. I laugh in her face and state, I don't really think you want me to do that. She counters, like hell I don't. Now it's my turn, so I laugh and say, okay, if we do that, we take the CSH with us and leave you with the Sedankina twins. She questions, what about Jack and the other Marines that came here to help me? I smile at her and describe her situation as being almost as bad as it really is. Like you, they have been declared enemy combatants, so they will all be taken to the deepest and darkest hole that I can find and will never see the light of day again. So tell me, are you really sure you want me to leave? I can see her thinking and know she's decided I have her right where I want her. She licks her lips and answers, you know Ben is going to kill you for this? I wave my arms around the room and state, I have a full company of special forces and Ben doesn't really stand a chance. Jennifer grins at me and says, with Ben and the help he's brought with him, that should just about be a fair fight. She knows about Ben's helper. So I naturally question. Present. Jens, at the CSH. Mike is interrogating me, and so far it's been a draw until I bring up Ben's helper. Then Mike questions, why don't you tell me about her? I've had some time to think about it and have determined that the wolf, who's also a lady, must be some sort of Indian spirit helper who's here to keep Ben safe. And with a whole company of special forces after him, he can use all the help he can get. I grin at Mike and tease, so you don't know anything about her, do you? I watch closely and see him obviously lie. Oh, we know much more than you can imagine. I laugh at him and decide direct confrontation is the best course of action. Mike, that's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. You don't know who you're dealing with, and she's going to rip all of you a new a-hole. Mike demands, and just how is she going to do that? I answer, she has abilities you won't believe. That is until it's way too late. The captain walks in, Mike sees him and says, we will continue this later. I grin and tease, great, I look forward to it. When Mike begins to leave and I ask, hey, what about some protection from the Sedankina bitches? The scumsucker laughs, that's not my problem, and if they do kill you, it's one less problem for me. If the twins don't kill me, and when I finally get totally healed, I'm going to cap that scumsucker. Present, Maria, taken prisoner. I look around for Linus, then I hear that he took off with Stacy Summers and some younger Marines. I walk over to the old fart, Jack, and say, I'm getting out of here too, and I'm going to go find Linus. Jack shakes his head and advises, I don't think that would be a wise thing to do right now. I get belligerent and demand, just why the hell not? The old fart explains, when Linus and the others took off, all the greenies were in the tunnels. Now that they're back, if you attempt to leave, they will shoot you. I laugh in his face, like hell they will. I was Army, and they don't do things like that, especially on American soil. His wife interrupts me. Jack is correct, you will be shot if you attempt to leave. Jack continues to annoy the hell out of me. They've declared martial law, otherwise they couldn't be here in the first place. And we've already seen them shoot some of us who put up any kind of a fight. I can't believe it, so I complain. Just who in the hell did that? Some scumsucker rolls up in wheelchair to the hole in the fence, laughs and states, that scumsucker would be me. I give him a dirty look and question, well, just who the hell do you think you are? He laughs and says, I'm the one that has taken all of you prisoner. Then he turns to the captain and orders, Captain, I think that woman needs to spend the rest of the day in solitary. I swear at him, you crippled scumsucker, you're lucky I don't kill you. He continues with his laugh and adds, Captain, make that the rest of the day and tomorrow too. I figure I'd better shut the hell up before they make it longer. The captain orders some men to take me to solitary, so they grab my shackles, lead me to a porta potty, and the scumsuckers lock me inside. It's nasty in here because there's shit everywhere and it's all I can do to keep from puking. Present, Zarika and Yasmin escape. We sit at a table and a waitress comes up and says, welcome to Bo Joe's. What's your poison? I give her an amazed look that she would try to feed us poison while Yasmin answers, it smells great in here. What is good to eat? She smiles and answers, most people come here get a mountain pie. I have never heard of that food before and many crazy thoughts go through my head, so I decide to question, what is a mountain pie? The waitress answers, probably the best pizza you will ever have in your life. It starts with our hand-tossed crust. We hand-roll the edges and cover it with a mountain of ingredients. That's why it's called a mountain pie. I answer, we are really hungry. Are you sure it will fill us up? The waitress laughs. Honey, our 1-pound pie feeds 1 to 2 people or a voracious wolverine. Our 2-pound pie feeds 2 to 3 people or half-dozen mongoose. I am a little confused and remark, I didn't know people took wolverines or mongoose to restaurants in Colorado. She laughs and says, I tell you what, how about I bring you two a 1-pound Hawaiian mountain pie? If you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it. Yasmin agrees. That sounds good for us. The waitress continues with her questions. Now how about a couple cores to wash that down with? I have no idea what she is talking about, so I look at Yasmin. She grins and answers, that would be great. We watch as another waitress brings out a huge pizza and Yasmin remarks, I sure hope ours isn't that big. The waitress brings us our cores in a big glass cup that's icy on the outside. It is the color of pee and has bubbles in it. I get brave, taste it, and whisper to Yasmin, I think this is beer. Yasmin tastes hers, wrinkles up her nose and complains, Zarika, this tastes terrible. After what seems like forever, our mountain pie arrives and thank God it isn't as big as the other one we saw. I ask the waitress, could we get something else to drink? We don't like the course? She smiles and questions how about a Pepsi? That's something I recognize, so I agree. Yes, please bring us 2 Pepsis. She leaves to replace our drinks, and Yasmin picks up a bottle that the waitress brought, tastes it, and questions, Sarika, why did she bring us honey? The waitress comes back, sees Yasmin holding the honey, and instructs us on proper use. This must be your first time here. The honey is for the leftover rolled crust when you are finished with the pizza. We each take a slice of pizza, begin to eat, and I comment, Yasmin, this might be the best food I've ever eaten. Yasmin states, Zarika, we need to learn to make this for Ben. I agree. If we could cook a mountain pie for Ben, he would forget all about Jennifer. Present, Inga, Tom, and Byron. It's raining hell on the drug lord. Tom and Byron are heading back to America, so I question, well, what about me? What am I to do? Tom looks at me and says, I don't know. I thought you'd just go back to wherever you came from. I shake my head and complain, but our mission is not complete. Byron calms, she's right, Tom. Perhaps we should bring her back with us. We can always use a new team member. Shit. Byron had to open his big mouth. I was hoping to be done with Inga now that the mission was a bust. She was a great operative, but she bothered the hell out of me. Inga excitedly offers, yes, I would love to be part of your team. I don't even get a chance to answer when Byron says, I know Tom doesn't like it, and for that reason alone, I can't see any reason to not have Inga join our team. After she affirms her interest, I answer before Tom can mess it up, great Inga, we're looking forward to it. You two work your way back toward me, and I will provide overwatch in case any of the drug lord's men survived. I'm watching and see Tom flip me off? Yeah, this should be really fun. Flashback, Ben, in Moscow. PT was a total waste of time because it was too easy and I hated it. Because of my feelings, I was certainly not my normal, perfect, patient self. Instead, I was the belligerent patient from hell. I gave them shit on all of the exercises except one, the one where I got to walk between the parallel bars. I pushed the hell out of myself on this exercise because the sooner I could walk, then the sooner I could run. And once I could run, I could go take care of the Chechen scumsuckers. My newest therapist ordered, Sergeant, it is time for you to stop walking between the parallel bars. I glanced at her, continued doing what I was doing, and answered, go screw yourself. I will stop when I damn well feel like it. Now get the hell out of here and leave me alone. Just like the others, she began to cry, then ran out of the room and right past Jack. Jack laughed, walked into the room and questioned. Flashback, Jack, in Moscow. Shit, the physical therapist ran past me crying. I looked at Ben and complained, don't tell me you lost another therapist? What the hell did you say to this one? It was miserable as hell for me watching Ben struggle to walk, but I made sure I hid that emotion from him. He looked up at me and confessed. She wanted me to stop using the parallel bars, but I wasn't done yet, so I told her to go screw herself. Get out of here and leave me alone. I grinned and counseled, you'd better cut it out, or they will give you a real son of a bitch for a therapist. He continued his sad attempt at walking and answered, hell, that would be great if they did. I'm tired of these pansy therapists. A new therapist walked into the room, and it was immediately obvious Ben should have been more careful about what he wished for. Flashback, Ben, in Moscow. A typical-looking, older Russian woman walked into the therapy room. You know the kind. They looked like they could be hitched to a plow and pull it all day long. She yelled at me, Sergeant Blaine, I do not care if you are a hero of Russia. I am your new therapist, and you will listen to my orders. Now get off the parallel bars because we have work to do. I grinned at her and taunted, go screw yourself and the horse you rode in on. I will get off these parallel bars when I damn well feel like it. Now get the hell out of here and leave me alone. The new therapist threatened, you will remove yourself from them immediately, or I will remove you. I stopped walking between the parallel bars, grinned at her, and challenged, I would like to see you do that. I couldn't believe what the sneaky bitch did next. It sure as hell wasn't fair. Flashback, Tatiana, in Moscow. It was all I could do to keep from laughing, and thereby let Ben know I was immediately outside the room. His new therapist, Yuliana, was known to be the toughest therapist in Moscow. Ben had made so many enemies on the therapist's staff that they transferred her here just to deal with him. We had come up with a plan, and I just waited until Yuliana called. Please come into the room. I sauntered into the room and asked as sweetly as I could, Ben, will you please remove yourself from the parallel bars? Especially since I am your girlfriend, your personal nurse, and I did ask you nicely. Ben glared at me, switched to Yuliana, and declared, it's not fair to use my personal nurse and girlfriend against me. Yuliana laughed. Her adipose tissue jiggled, and she declared, "Everything is fair in love and war, so my action was certainly fair. However, you're being a huge pain in the butt to the rest of the therapists was definitely not fair. Now come down from those parallel bars because we have work to do." Ben gave Juliana a confused look and demanded, "What the hell sort of work? The parallel bars are always the last thing I do in therapy." Juliana stated, "Not anymore. Your butt is now mine. The longer you take to follow my instruction, the worse it will be for you." Ben made a huge mistake as he removed himself from the parallel bars. He decided to challenge Juliana's intentions. "What the hell can you do to me? Take your best shot?" Flashback, Jack, in Moscow. I briefly watched but couldn't take it anymore, so I went back to Ben's room and waited for him. I made a serious mental note to never antagonize a physical therapist, especially one that looked like a semi-truck driver. Once Ben got off the parallel bars, she wheeled him to a massage table, physically picked him up. Oh yeah, that was amazing. Threw him literally on the table and went to town on him. She twisted him this way and that way, then she gave him the most brutally wicked massage I had ever seen. Hell, I couldn't watch any more of the punishment. I was sure she was going to break him in two. I was proud as hell that Ben didn't cry, but I could tell he was in a hell of a lot of pain from his groans and his breathing. Plus, he didn't complain at all about what the new therapist was doing to him. Shit, I would have jumped off that damn table and run like hell, but then Ben wouldn't do that. I felt slightly bad for him, but he did bring this on himself. The door opened, Tatiana wheeled him into the room, and he looked like shit warmed over. She brought him beside his bed and asked, "Jack, will you please help me get Ben into his bed?" I was confused because Ben had been moving so well before the therapist got her mitts on him, so I asked, "Can't he do it himself?" Ben answered, "Jack, don't make a big deal out of this. Please just help me get into the bed." As we began to move Ben, he groaned in pain. We got him into the bed and I asked, "Tatiana, don't you think he needs something for pain?" Ben glared at me and argued, "Tatiana, don't listen to him. I don't want anything for pain." Tatiana smiled at me and explained, "I offered Ben something for pain, but he is concerned he will become addicted, so he refuses to take anything." That sounded exactly like the Ben I knew, so I didn't press the issue. I was pissed when Ben requested, "Tatiana, will you please check the trash can to see if the French fries are still there?" She went to the trash can and saucily reported, "No, honey, the French fries are no longer in the trash can." Ben glared at me and demanded, "Jack, I thought I told you not to eat them." I knew better than to lie to Ben this time. Lately, he'd become lethal at detecting lies, so I answered, "Well, I was hungry and didn't want good food to go to waste. You know there are starving kids in Africa that would have been happy to have those fries." Ben derisively laughed and shot down my reasoning. "Then you should have sent the fries to them rather than eating them yourself and packing on even more weight. Just remember, if you get too fat for your dress blues, you're going to have to wear a suit when you marry Masha because there's no place here in Russia to buy larger blues, and I don't think the tailors could let the existing ones out anymore." Shit, I hated it like hell when Ben was right. I hadn't tried on my blues in a while, but the last time I did they were a bit tight, and now I might not even be able to button them. Thank God I was saved by Tatiana when she said, "Jack, you need to leave now, because I need to get Ben cleaned up." I decided I needed to sew something so I could fit in my blues, but there was no way in hell I was going to give Ben the satisfaction of knowing that. I needed a distraction and asked, "I will see you later. Would you like another hamburger when I come back?" Ben grinned and answered, "I sure as hell would." His eager answer set off Tatiana like I knew it would. I was confident that Ben was playing for more makeup, and as I left they were still arguing about it. Flashback, Jens, at the military hospital. I received a disturbing as heck email from, I couldn't believe what was in it. It was GROSS. I was going to do something about it when there was a knock on my door and a man I didn't know. I immediately disliked him because he looked so effeminate. Walked into my room with a gym bag, which looked more like a purse, over his shoulder. I immediately and crabbily demanded, "Who the heck are you and what do you want?" He glared at me and declared, "I am Angel Betancourt, the ballet shoe supervisor for the New York City Ballet, and I'm here to fit you for custom and point shoes. However, I deal with prima ballerinas all day long, and if you continue with your current bitchy attitude I will leave, and you will be deprived of my acknowledged expertise." I apologized. "I am sorry, Mr. Betancourt. I had just received a very disturbing email before you came into my room and seemed to have forgotten my manners." I liked him a little better when he smiled at me and stated, "Okay, Jennifer, your apology is accepted. The first thing I need you to do is to stand up and perform a demi-plie for me." I stood up, performed a demi-plie, and Mr. Betancourt remarked, "That was very nice. Now point your right foot." I complied, then he commanded, "Sit down, take the tights off your foot, and let me see the shape of your foot." He examined my foot, but it tickled, so I laughed, and Mr. Betancourt ordered, "Jennifer, this is very serious business, so please control yourself." Now look at your foot. If you notice, the big toe, second toe, and even the third and fourth toe are all approximately the same length. You have what is called a classic box foot. Another nice feature is that your toes don't have any large gaps between them. I imagine that you are very stable when you're in point. Am I correct? Katie walked into the room as he was talking. I smiled at Mr. Betancourt, shrugged my shoulders, and answered, I guess so. Katie bragged on me and made me blush. Angel, it's good to see you again. Jennifer is just being modest. I watched Jennifer do 30 fouettes in these shoes, and she could have done more, but chose to stop. Katie handed Mr. Betancourt my old, unbroken point shoe. He examined my shoe, and I was shocked when he exploded, Sacre Bleu. These shoes are rubbish and should have been disposed of years ago. Young lady, do you not know dancing in inferior and worn-out shoes could end your career? Katie, please tell Jennifer how often you change shoes. Katie informed me. I always wore a new pair of shoes for each performance because nothing is worse than having a shoe break during the performance. For rehearsals, I wore a different pair of shoes each day. Mr. Betancourt added, I am responsible for all the shoes the New York City Ballet uses. Do you have any idea how much money I spend just on shoes each year? I made what I assumed to be a wild guess. I don't know, possibly $50,000. Mr. Betancourt laughed. Young lady, you are off by a factor of 10. I spend more than $500,000 each season on shoes. Now I brought a few shoes for you to try on to see if we can get close to the right fit. I was a little confused with what I heard earlier, so I asked for clarification. Katie told me she had a shoe allowance. Mr. Betancourt answered, yes, when Katie was with us that was the norm. However, we have improved our procedures, and now I am responsible for fitting and purchasing all the shoes. Katie added additional information. Yes, Jennifer, Angel is excellent at fitting shoes, so you are very fortunate he took the time to come here. Angel then gave me some information which caused some concern. However, young Jennifer, you will be responsible for sewing your shoes. I stammered, but I have no idea how to sew my shoes. Katie touched my arm and promised, don't worry, Jennifer, I will teach you. This is something every prima ballerina must know. Mr. Betancourt began to fit me for the shoes. Flashback, Glenn, at the military hospital. Thank God Evelyn wasn't seriously injured, but the same couldn't be said for the family in the minivan. Oh, the parents weren't hurt that badly, but the twin girls were in for a long road of recovery. The J arrived and said, well, sir, I believe this will secure your wife's placement in an alcohol rehabilitation program. In fact, I've already prepared the paperwork so that when she wakes up, we can transfer her immediately. I asked, what about the nurse's complaint regarding Evelyn mistreating Jennifer? He gave me a serious look before replying, I hate to tell you this, sir, but to get her to drop the charges, I had to make a deal you might not like. Apprehensive, I pressed, well, don't keep me in suspense. What kind of deal are we talking about? When he explained it, I was stunned. Are you sure there's no other way to fix this? I asked. He looked down, shook his head, and sighed. Sir, I tried everything. I even considered pushing a malpractice case against her, but she wouldn't budge. Frustrated, I muttered, this is a complete mess. I hope you haven't told Jennifer yet. He quickly reassured me, of course not. I figured you'd want to break the news yourself. I nodded. You're right. I need to be the one to tell her. I leaned back in my chair, trying to figure out how to deliver this news to Jennifer. But first things first, Evelyn was starting to wake up. Flashback, Alexei, on the way home. While we were headed home, I stuck my head out the window to continue my dog ruse. Mother bitterly complained, Alexei, you are not a dog. Bring your head back into the car immediately and roll up the window. It is cold outside, and you will catch your death. I whined, literally like a dog, and father came to my defense. Mother, if Alexei enjoys this, I do believe we would be better letting him express himself in this manner. I brought my head back in and loudly panted, again like a dog. Then I returned to my previous activity. Mother chided, well then at least drive more slowly. Father did comply with her wishes, and I was actually thankful for his action because it was not comfortable at all having my head out the window at the speed he was driving. I brought my head back inside and questioned, Mother and Father, when we purchase the pelmeni, can we also stop and get me some milk bones? This comment had the desired effect as Mother and Father began arguing. Yes, once again I was in control. Flashback, Ira, Mira, and Safia, in Israel. Mira wanted to proceed to interrogate the rest of the Baker Street irregulars. However, I had grown weary of Mira enjoying all the amusement of solving this new case as Sherlock Holmes. I perceived that fairness dictated it was my opportunity to perform Sherlock's role, so I complained, Mira, your mirth has exceeded the boundaries of my patience. Therefore, I am invalidating our previous agreement and will now assume the role of Sherlock Holmes. It was impossible to believe what my auditory units perceived. Not only did my sister Ira greatly deviate from her assigned character as Dr. Watson, She now desired to change our agreed-on rules and abscond with the role of Sherlock Holmes from my corporeal self. I glared at her, placed my digital extremities on my iliac crests and challenged, of course still in the character of Sherlock Holmes. Dr. Watson, I do believe you have imbibed too great of a quantity of Mrs. Hudson's aperitif. Immediately return to our domicile until you are sober. Dr. Watson countered, Mira, if you do not release the role of Sherlock Holmes to my corporeal self, I will take the role forcibly. It was time for me to temporarily relinquish my characterization of Sherlock Holmes, so I accepted the challenge. If you assume that is even a remote possibility, then I welcome the confrontation. Oh, I could tell a major confrontation was coming between Ira and Mira. Since I really didn't want to be involved in such a blow-up, I slowly slipped toward the door. I was almost out of the room when Ira, Dr. Watson, questioned, Baker Street irregular, what are your feelings concerning this matter? Even having had a limited education, I knew better than to stay and answer that question. I ran from the room as fast as I could as a small war erupted behind me. Flashback, Todd, on the island. I escaped the masked troops and ran my butt off until, son of a bitch, I missed one of Lou's traps, and the next thing I knew, I was the catch of the day. However, rather than yelling my butt off as the Chinese troops did, I kept as quiet as possible and watched the trail I'd come down. It wasn't long until the masked troops showed up, and like I had hoped, they didn't bother to look up. They kept running, passed right underneath me, and kept going. I was ready to thank my lucky stars when Lou arrived and began to cut me down. She lowered me to the ground, cut the tie wraps restraining my hands, and we took off in the direction opposite to that where the masked troops headed. I had a ton of questions, but no way to ask Lou just who in the hell those masked troops were, and what in the hell did they plan on doing to me. We looped back toward the base, and I was shocked when I saw what was happening. Present, Ben, at the cabin. After taking out the 2 guards at the entrance to the tunnels, I slip inside, and I'm shocked at how nice these tunnels look. Hell, if I was going to stay I would say screw the cabin and let's live in the tunnels. But since I'm not staying, that is a moot point. There is a problem that's bothering me. With Jack's training, it's going to be hell to find Ivan in this maze of tunnels. Oh well, time to get cracking and check one room at a time. And I will naturally do a better job than the greenies. The first room is clear, but as I come out I hear, someone is humming a Russian song. I move toward the sound and find the humming several rooms down. I open the door and hear, is that you in the suit of trees, Uncle Ben? Damn smart kid knew to hum a song, so I could find him. I enter the room and answer, yeah Ivan, it's me. Did Jack teach you to hum a song, so I could find you? Ivan's answer was surprising and confusing. No, Uncle Ben. Wolf, that is also a lady, told me to hum song, so you could find me. I want to ask him what the hell he's talking about, but I know better than to waste time, so I state, Ivan, you can tell me all about her later, but for right now, let's get you out of here. He comes over to me. I pick him up, and he asks, will you take me to Mama and Papa? I know better than to lie to him. For a kid, he's sharp as hell. So I answer, not right now, Ivan. There's a bad man that is holding them prisoner. He smiles at me and says, yes, Wolf, who is also a lady, told me that you and she come to puff and huff and blow all the bad men down. I chuckle slightly and say, yeah, that's right. We're going to kick their butts. Ivan scolds me. Uncle Ben, you should not use bad words like Donald Duckson lady. She used so many bad words my ears burnt like on fire. It took me a second, but I figured out he meant Yentz and couldn't wait to find out more about her. I ask, Ivan, do you know piggyback ride? He answers, yes, and positively. I stand him on a table, back up, and order, okay, I'm giving you a piggyback ride out of here because I need both my hands free in case we meet any bad men. Ivan giggles and counters, Uncle Ben, you no need to give piggyback ride. I can run good and fast to keep up with you. Hell, that's even better. To be truthful, I wasn't looking forward to carrying him, especially if we got into a fight. However, we did need to take one precaution, so I warn, Ivan, I have body armor, so if I get shot it probably won't hurt me, so you need to stay right behind me. Do you understand body armor? He salutes and says, yes, Captain. Armor like tank, so bullets hurt you not. I chuckle because I can only imagine how Jack would respond to being called Captain. I check the hallway, and we slowly move out. Present, Stacy, escaped. We run our butts off to escape the greenies chasing us. Then one of the Marines turns and says, shit, they're gaining on us. I look at Linus and say, sorry, but you're slowing all of us up. I guess you become our sacrificial lamb to the special forces. As we stop running slower for Linus, he falls behind, then we hear him begin to laugh, and he yells, hell, I should have known the Marines don't know the difference between 2 horses and a bear and the greenies. You all can stop running because there are no troops chasing us. When we stop, Patches, Bo, and Wojciech run up. Wojciech yowls and gives me a hell of a bear hug. I worry that he's going to break my back, and as usual he smells like shit. Then Patches comes up and nuzzles me. I look at Patches and ask, "Where's your saddle?" She nickers and I decide that it's in the trailer, so I tell her, "I guess I need to ride you bareback." I look around for help and a Marine helps me up on her back. I take my phone again and attempt to make a call. Present, Linus, escaped. Stacy starts to make her phone call, and I order a Marine, "Help me up on this other horse because I'm tired of running." Stacy pauses in the middle of her phone call, grins at me and threatens, "Linus, it's your funeral if you try to ride that horse. That's Ben's horse, and he won't let anyone else ride him." Hell, I've ridden lots of horses before. Most people don't realize it, but we use them in the mountains of the sandbox all the time. I bragged, "I highly doubt that this horse will give me any shit. If he does, I will show him who's the boss." Present, Stacy, escaped. I try to warn Linus, but like the brain-dead seal he is, he won't listen. He gets a Marine to help him on Bo's back, and then the fun begins. This requires all my attention, so I terminate my call and watch as Bo gives Linus not only an e-ticket ride, he includes an F and G ticket for good measure. Finally, Bo goes one way and flips Linus up into the air the other way. Oh, this is going to hurt like hell. Linus falls for what seems like forever and hits the ground flat on his back. One of the Marine runs over, checks him for a pulse and laughs. He's out cold. I quip. I tried to warn him. Anyone else want to try to ride Bo? There were no takers on riding Bo, so I continue my calls, but I'm having problems I hadn't anticipated. It seems that Mike is better connected than I had thought, so I have to call in some big guns and threaten to have my company cease production of some critical military weapons. Once I inform the senators and congressmen of this, it doesn't take long until my phone rings and I have a general on the line. He demands, "What's this I hear that you are refusing to deliver our weapon systems?" I gladly inform him, "That's correct. Some of the weapon systems that I have delivered to you are being used illegally in the continental United States. This violates the contract I have with the Department of Defense, so my companies will no longer deliver the weapon system." He scoffs, "I have no idea what you are talking about." Just as I assumed, much if not all of Mike's mission is off the books. I take the opportunity to explain, "Well, General, I am in Colorado at a cabin and was taken prisoner by a full company of Army Special Forces. They are under the command of a civilian in a wheelchair named Mike." I add some fuel to the fire. "So, are you telling me you're not in command of your own troops?" He complains, "I haven't authorized or even heard about this, so I will need to do some checking and call you back." I get sassy with him. "You do that, but until this situation is resolved, you're not getting jack shit from my companies." Present, Samantha, taken prisoner. Ben shoots the shit out of the dirt at the feet of the special forces who are firing at Wojciech. It makes for an impressive scene, and I make sure my video glasses record the whole conflict. Liz comes over and questions, "Sam, when do you plan on sending the video to the station?" I look at her and explain, "Liz, I can't do that as long as Mike is around, since he will figure out who has done that, and I will end up in a worse place than I am now." Liz tries to persuade me to change my mind. "Come on, Sam. Let's release it now. Mike will never figure it out." I give her my hard drive and ask, "Just how do you propose to get this out of here? You know Ben has disabled all communications in the area, don't you?" Liz shakes her head and answers, "I didn't know that, and that blows my plan out of the water." She hands the hard drive back to me and says, "You might as well keep this. I sure as hell don't like Mike, so make sure you document everything." I need to give Liz some hope, so I say, "Stacy has been recording everything too, and I'm sure if she gets to someplace with available communication links, she will send her videos to the network." Present, Stacy, escaped. I figure I've lit fires under more than half of the senators and congressmen in DC, and I need more ammo to demonstrate how bad things are here, so I call up the Truth Network. I'm impressed because the station manager comes on almost immediately and asks, "Miss Summers, I hear you have some video for us that let us know what has happened to Elizabeth Morgan and Samantha Stevens." I laugh. They show a hell of a lot more than that. They show Army Special Forces operating with impunity on American soil, detaining war veterans under the command of a real SOB that goes by the name of Mike. Then I warn, the only problem is they are raw videos and will need to be edited for viewing. We will also need a reporter to tell everyone what's going on. The manager asks, "Well, would you like to take a stab at being that reporter? Your credibility with America is very high and you could report it as first-hand experience." I think about it and like the idea, but there's a huge problem, so I ask, "How in the hell do you expect me to report on the videos if I won't be able to see them?" He answers, "That's no problem. We will edit the videos, then I will call you back and describe what's going on in the video, and you can do your report on it." I answer, "Okay, I will give it a try, get the first video edited, and then give me a call." I give him my number, hang up my phone, and notice that Linus is finally coming around. Present, Linus, escaped. I wake up and smell shit. Nasty horse breath in my face. Now I remember, that damn horse threw me, and I must have passed out when I hit the ground. I open my eyes, and I swear the damn horse is laughing in my face. I jump up, begin to chase him, and hear everybody laugh. So I turn and threaten, "Do you all want your butts kicked?" Stacy mouths off, "I'm game if you are." I complain, "But you're a woman." She interrupts, "That's right. So you might even stand a fair chance. That is unless you get my horse Patches upset. Then she will kick your butt like Bo did." I've had my fill of this bullshit, so I finally say, "I'm out of here and you all are on your own." Present, Jens, in the CSH. After my run-in with Miranda and Mike, I'm pissed as hell. Nothing like being flat on my back with no protection and surrounded by enemies. I know I've been in worse places and have always been able to count on my smarts to get me out of it. I begin to think and look around my room for ideas. I finally see a few things that might work, now if I can just get to them. I begin to move, and it hurts like a son of a bitch. Damn, I wish I had taken the doctor up on his offer of the pain medicine. Oh well, it's too late now. If I can just reach I finally reach it and begin to move the bed toward my intended target. I make it there, grab the items off the table, and tuck them under the sheets. One item is so long it doesn't really fit, but that's fine for now. Now, if I can just get my bed back to where it was. This is hard as hell, and gives me new respect for the time Ben was in Russia and couldn't walk. Yeah, I know all about that, and the crazy Russian nurse he was with. I take the broom handle and look for a place to break it. I wedge it in the side rail of my bed, pull with all my might, and it finally snaps while I catch both parts. Now that it's a much more workable length, I take some handy adhesive tape and tape the scalpel to one end of one of the pieces. Now I have a great spear. I take the other slightly longer piece of the broom handle and make some practice swings with it. If I have the need, it will function as a practice katana. I know it won't do much against one of the twins' real katana, but at least it's better than nothing. The exertion has me sweating like crazy, so I lie back in my bed and relax. Present, Mike, at the CSH. The idiotic captain came in and informed me about the breakout of some of the prisoners. Damn it to hell. If he was a major, he would be a major of incompetence. I want to take this out of earshot of Jennifer Donaldson, so we move outside and I ream him. "Captain, why the hell didn't you leave some men in place to guard the prisoners?" He tries his best to cover his butt. "Well, sir, you told me how lethal the tangos in the tunnels were, so I needed to make sure I had sufficient men to control any circumstance that might arise." I still ride his butt. "And in doing that, you let how many prisoners escape? And while you're at it, tell me which ones escaped." He gives me a sheepish look and answers, "4 men and 1 woman." I interrupt, "Don't tell me one of the men was Linus and the woman was Stacy Summers." He stupidly replies, "How did you know that, sir?" I answer, "Because those were the 2 that we could least afford to let escape." "Captain, your incompetence has seriously jeopardized this mission. You need to keep a small contingent guarding the prisoners and put everyone else into the field to capture our tangos and the 4 that escaped from your prison. Now move your butt, because we're going to have limited time before this mission gets canceled." He takes off, and I decide I need to go and harass the Sedenkina twins again. Present, Mira, Ira, Todd, and Alexei, at the CSH. I have a pleasant surprise when I arrive back to the patient beds and Alexei. My sister Ira and her boyfriend Todd have awakened. I immediately translocate to my sister, hug her, and inquire of her condition. "Ira, how do you feel?" She smiles and me and answers, "Mira, Todd's miracle potion has almost completely healed me. I have a few slight pains in my back, but otherwise I am feeling remarkably well." Todd signs, "Those pains will dissipate over the next few days." I am gassed of flabberg and comment to Todd, "It would be of great benefit for us to obtain more of that potion so it could be analyzed." He signs his reply, "I believe there is only one place in the world where it grows, and it is a long and troublesome trip to acquire more." Ira quickly suggests, "Todd, I would love to accompany you on this mission." Todd signs, "There are other things to do right now as we need to take care of all the threats here." "Is Mike still in charge?" I reply, "Yes, he is still in charge. However, the Special Forces made an error and allowed Linus, 3 other Marines, and Stacy Summers escape." Todd begins to sign an answer, then stops and becomes very defensive. I turn and recognize the reason. Present, Mike, at the CSH. Now this is an interesting surprise. The other Sedenkina bitch and Todd are awake. The doctors I assigned to check them assured me they would be out of commission for many days if not weeks. I roll toward them and tease, "Well, it's interesting that Irina and Todd are awake. I had heard their wounds were so severe they would be disabled for weeks." Todd signs, "Your doctors must have made a mistake, because as you can see we are fully recovered." I smile at them and state, "Good, now that you're well, you can be moved." Miranda states, "If you are planning on putting us in with the other prisoners, our government would consider that an act of aggression." I grin at them and state, "Oh no, I have a much better place in which to keep the 4 of you out of my way." Todd angrily signs, "Mike, I demand to know what your plans are." I turn to leave and say, "Don't worry, you will soon know where you're going." Present, Maria, taken prisoner. I can't believe that crippled shit had me locked in this filthy porta potty. He doesn't know who he's messing with. When I get the hell out of here, I'm going to bust a cap in his worthless butt. At least Linus escaped, but I wish I could be with him. Then something incredible happens. Present, Ben, at the cabin. Ivan and I make it out of the tunnels with no problems. I almost laugh at the two men they had standing guard since they are still out cold. Once we reach the tree line, we pause. I give Ivan a pair of socks and order, "Put these over your boots." He asks, "Why, Uncle Ben?" "Socks go on inside of boot. See, I wear mine already." I smile at him and answer, "The socks over the outside of your boots will make it harder for them to see your footprints and track us. Plus, it will make you move through the forest with less noise." Ivan nods his head and replies, "Yes, Uncle Ben, now I understand and know." This is something new that my papa never taught me. Once his shoes are covered, we head toward the bunker, and son of a bitch. That's the report of my Barrett 50. I look at Ivan and order, "Someone has found my big rifle and is firing it. I was going to take you to the bunker, but first I have to take care of whoever has my rifle." Ivan surprises me when he says, "Wolf, that is also a lady, says a seal puppy has your rifle." I want to ask Ivan what the hell he's talking about, but I'd rather get my rifle. I thought I hid the hell out of it, but some scumsucker found it, and they're going to pay a huge price when I catch them. Present, Zarika and Yasmin escape. We devour the mountain pie and drink 2 Pepsis with it. The waitress comes back and questions, "Well, I don't see any pizza, so you two must have liked it?" Yasmin answers, "It was some of the best food we have ever eaten." The waitress smiles and states, "Yes, that's what we usually hear. Now here's your bill." Yasmin hands the waitress a plastic card from the mean lady's purse, and the waitress takes it and says, "I will be right back." She comes back with a form. Yasmin signs it, then we head outside and walk into a huge problem. Present, Tom, Inga, and Byron. It's raining hell on the drug lord. I can't believe that Byron invited Inga back to America. I was looking forward to my escape from her. I think he did it on purpose just to aggravate me, but that's okay since revenge is a dish best served cold, and I have a plan to fix his little red wagon. I am glad to be heading back to America with Tom and Byron since it will give me a chance again to see some old friends that I've missed. In addition, working with Tom and Byron was fun and different than most of my recent missions. Yeah, Tom's pissed as hell at me, but that's okay. I know he will try to plan some sort of retribution, but his sneaky doesn't hold a candle to my sneaky. Flashback, Ben, in Moscow. Tatiana started to whine at me. "Ben, what do you mean you want another hamburger? You need to be eating the hospital food as it is healthy and nutritious." I laughed at her and added, "You forgot to mention that hospital food is nasty tasting." She played the girlfriend card and asked nicely one too many times. But Ben, I am your girlfriend, and I am asking nicely. Please eat the healthy and nutritious hospital food. I've had my fill of this asking nicely bullshit, so I pull out my ultimate weapon against it. You must understand that I'm your boyfriend, and I'm telling you the hospital food tastes like shit, and I refuse to eat it. So it's your choice, my girlfriend. Let me eat the hamburgers Jack brings me, or I won't eat anything. Flashback, Tatiana, in Moscow. Son of a bitch, as Ben would say. He countered my girlfriend asking nicely in a very authoritative way. I should have assumed he would eventually do this, but I did not like him eating hamburgers. Then I came up with an idea and questioned, "My boyfriend, would it please you if I brought you meals I cooked at home?" I could not believe how he next insulted me. Flashback, Ben, in Moscow. I could not believe the results I got when I simply commented, "Tatiana, I did not know you could cook." I watched her fight back the tears as she declared, "Sergeant Benny Blaine." When she used my full name, I knew I was in for bad shit. I had no idea what it meant when she added my rank, because she had never done that. Are you brain dead? I am a Russian woman, therefore, I certainly know how to cook. You of all men, after knowing so many Russian sayings, should know this. I am very sad, and I'm leaving. I might be back tomorrow, or possibly not. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen. Shit, I was thoroughly screwed this time. I had chased off my personal nurse, and I really needed help because I hurt like a mother scum sucker. I pressed my call button, but no one came, so I resigned myself to the fact that I had really screwed the pooch on this one and had lost Tatiana forever. So I decided to implement my plan and made a phone call. I was shocked when the door opened and in walked. Flashback, Jack, in Moscow. I had a busy afternoon. After the dressing down by Ben, I figured I needed to do something about my weight. I didn't dare try on my blues yet, so I geared up and went for a run. I really hated to admit it, but Ben was right. My little jaunt kicked my butt. I stopped by Mac and D's and picked up another hamburger for Ben. But this time I didn't get the fries since he wouldn't eat them, and I sure as hell didn't need to add anything else to my weight problem. I walked into his room, and I couldn't believe how bad Ben looked. I immediately asked, "What the hell is wrong with you?" He looked down at the bed and confessed, "I think I ruined what I had going with Tatiana. Son of a bitch. This was all I needed before my upcoming wedding. I handed Ben the Mickey D's burger and asked, "So what the hell did you do this time?" He took the package and answered, "Thanks, Jack. This might be the only edible food I get all day since the hospital food tastes like shit." Now to the problem. Tatiana offered to cook meals for me, and I guess I made the mistake of asking her if she could cook. Hell's bells. Even I knew better than to ask that question of Masha. How the hell did Ben ask such a stupid question? Everyone knows that almost all Russian women were hell of good cooks. I didn't say what I wanted to, but instead I counseled him. Ben, you should know that most all Russian women know how to cook. It's a matter of pride to them. I guess I didn't help him because he continued with his sad sack face and answered, "Shit, Jack. She had never cooked anything for me, so I didn't know any better. If she leaves me, Jack, I'm seriously screwed." I agreed, nodded my head, and came up with an idea. Ben, you're right. If she leaves you, you are seriously screwed. However, I will have a talk with Masha, explain the situation to her, and see if she can smooth things over. I finally saw a little hope on his face when he looked up and stated, "Thanks, Jack. I owe you." I thought to myself that sentiment is typical, but kept my mouth shut and went to find Masha. She seemed to have a huge amount of influence on Tatiana. I didn't understand, but I sure as hell hoped she could fix this problem. I bid farewell to Ben. I will see you soon. Enjoy the hamburger. And don't worry, even if Tatiana is gone forever, I will still bring you hamburgers. Flashback, Masha, in Moscow. Tatiana ran up to me with tears running down her face. Ben must have done something again. So I asked, "Tatiana, tell me what Ben did this time?" She continued to cry, hugged me, and blubbered. Ben questioned if I could cook. Of course I can cook, I am Russian. I hugged her tightly. This was such an easy problem to fix, I could not believe it, and replied with a simple question, "Tatiana, while Ben might speak Russian exceptionally well, is Ben a Russian man?" She pulled back from me, looked at me, and answered, "No, Masha, you know as well as I do he is from America, and I am very thankful for that." I continued with my interrogation, hoping she would soon answer her own question. "So tell me, Tatiana, what have we been taught about American women and cooking?" I watched her think for a few moments, then she smiled and answered, "Masha, we have been taught that many younger American women have not learned the fine art of cooking." I forced Tatiana to make a decision. "So Tatiana, knowing Ben is an American man, should he automatically assume that you can cook?" I was happy to watch her seriously consider my question. She finally replied, "Masha, I am ashamed. You are correct, and I have just experienced a very large cultural difference with Ben. However, I am concerned I have greatly offended him with my actions." I questioned Tatiana about her actions and decided she had most likely at least confused if not offended Ben, so I offered, "Tatiana, I have dinner already prepared for Jack. I know our cooking is similar, so please enter my apartment and take a very large plate for Ben." As I assumed she would, she questioned, "But Masha, what about Jack's dinner?" I smiled and advised her, "Ben teased Jack earlier today about getting fat, so my Jack told me he is on a diet." I was very pleased with this solution to a potential problem which I did not know how to address with Jack. "I will fix him a special salad tonight." It was Tatiana's time to tease when she questioned, "And as usual you will be the dessert?" I crimsoned and threatened, "Do you want the food or not?" She answered, "I certainly want the food, but I also want Ben for dessert." "Why should you have all the fun?" I laughed and replied, "Because I'm the boss." Flashback, Ben, in Moscow. Thank God Jack brought me the hamburger because I was sure as hell I would never see Tatiana again, and I was hungry as hell. After the bitch Yuliana had damn near broken me in two, I needed some food. Jack left, and I devoured the hamburger and wished he'd brought the French fries this time because I could tell my body needed more food after the torture I'd faced from Yuliana. She raked me over once. Then she evilly grinned at me and did it a second time for good measure. But after Tatiana left, I had a plan for tonight that was going to fix all their little red wagons. I was about half full from the hamburger Jack brought, and then was surprised as hell when. Flashback, Tatiana, in Moscow. Masha was almost always correct, and she did seem to understand American men better than I did. Otherwise I would have huge engagement ring like she did. The lucky as hell bitch. I had no idea if Ben would ever give me such a ring. So I listened to her advice, this time, went to her apartment, and made a huge plate of French meat for Ben with many potatoes. I started to cover the plate with foil, and then I looked and added one more thing I hoped Masha wouldn't miss. And if she did miss it, who the hell cared? I had a boyfriend to impress. I grabbed my bounty, took it to the hospital, and walked into Ben's room holding the plate in front of me. I was shocked when. Flashback, Ben, in Moscow. Hell's bells. This was the last thing I expected to see. Yeah, I figured I'd totally screwed the pooch with Tatiana, and then she walked into my room carrying a plate of food in front of her like an offering. I was still hungry as hell, so I bit my tongue and apologized. "Tatiana, please forgive me for my earlier statement. I was being both stupid and inconsiderate when I compared you to American women I had known. Hell, I had to cook for most of them. She smiled at me, and it lit up the whole room when she simply answered, Sergeant Benny Blaine, I am not only not like any American woman you have known, I am more importantly not like any other woman you have known. So please tell me when you will learn this. I struggled for a suitable answer while I had a hell of a great second dinner and wondered if I was a hobbit. Flashback? Yents, at the military hospital. I couldn't believe it. It took for frickin' ever to fit me for the ballet shoes, and this was nothing like I had ever been through before. I was tired of trying on shoes. Yes, I know that is a shocking thought. And if I never saw an in-point shoe again, it would be great. Mr. Betancourt even took the time to specially sew the edges of the shoes that he finally determined fit me the best so that they didn't bunch when I went in point. He finished and stated, For now I will leave you with this pair of temporary shoes. I should receive your custom shoes from Freed in about a week. I asked, Why can't I keep the shoes you sewed for me? He laughed, Because I need to send them to Freed as they will use them as a template for all your future shoes. Now I must be going. I have a flight to New York I need to catch. I was very happy and profusely thanked him. Mr. Betancourt, I don't know how to repay you for this. He laughed. Just dance your best when we come to watch you, and it will be worth it. I questioned, we? Katie answered for him. Yes, we. Mr. Betancourt and many others are coming to watch you perform. Suddenly this all became very real to me, and I began to worry. Katie must have seen the concern on my face and advised, Jennifer, it's time you learn how to sew your shoes and also how to properly break in your new shoes. I asked, but what about your work? Katie answered with a chuckle, My shift ended hours ago, otherwise I couldn't be here. Katie started to teach me how to sew my new shoes, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. We were part way through when I remembered and asked, Katie, I hate to bother you about this, but I know Robert and Megan had sex on my bed because he sent me pictures of it in an email. Were you able to get a new bed for me? If not, that's fine. I will sleep in the chair or on the floor, but as I told you before, I refuse to sleep in this soiled bed. Katie answered, Jennifer, I tried, but I wasn't successful. However, if you have proof, then I can take that to my head nurse, and we will see what she says. I opened up my computer, showed her the email with the gross pictures, and she said, I will be right back. Since I taught you how to sew your first shoe, why don't you try your other shoe? She left, and I began to sew my other shoe like I was taught. However, I cheated a little as I used the first shoe as a pattern. Flashback, Glenn, at the military hospital. Evelyn woke up and groaned. Glenn, I am so sore. What happened? I made sure to keep my face and voice soft, even though I wanted to yell at her and slap the shit out of her. Evelyn, don't you remember taking my car, driving while drunk, and getting into an accident? She shook her head, then complained, Glenn, I have no idea what you're talking about. That was the cue for the J. He marched up beside her bed and started to deliver her well-deserved ration of shit. Your husband's not lying, Evelyn Donaldson. Not only did you total his car, you also seriously injured a family of 4. Evelyn gasped. No, I don't believe you. The JA continued. Perhaps when you're in prison you will believe it. You see, this happened on the base, and we take things like this very seriously in the military. Evelyn was more flustered than I ever remembered as she grabbed my hand and pleaded, Glenn, can't you do anything? I looked at the JA and suggested, Evelyn, let me have a little talk with the JA to see if we can't work something out. We moved out of earshot of Evelyn, and I mentioned, it looks like your plan is going to work. The JA answered, if we can get her to stay in the program and help with the recovery of the family, then things should be fine. I nodded my head and said, well, shall we tell her the good news? We headed back over. I took Evelyn's hand and said, well, I was able to work something out, but you might not like it. Evelyn frantically replied, anything is better than going to prison. The J advised, well, Mrs. Donaldson, you need to do 2 things if you want to stay out of prison. First, you need to immediately enter and successfully complete an alcoholic rehabilitation program in this hospital. Evelyn interrupted, I will certainly do that. The JA continued, you will also be expected to help with the rehabilitation of the family you injured, especially the twin daughters. Evelyn gasped again. Don't tell me I injured a couple of girls. The JA nodded and then dropped the hammer. You almost killed them. It's going to require many hours of serious rehabilitation work for them, and you will be by their sides for all their rehabilitation. Evelyn nodded and answered, of course I will be. It's my responsibility. A nurse came with a wheelchair, and the JA said, they are here to take you to your alcoholic rehabilitation program. Evelyn got into the wheelchair. I kissed her on the cheek and promised, I will be by later to see how you are doing, but first I need to check on Jennifer. Evelyn asked, Glenn, tell Jennifer I am so sorry about what I did earlier and ask her to forgive me. They wheeled her out of the room, and I mentioned to the J, well, that went better than I expected. He smiled and said, just so you know, I will be periodically checking in on her just to keep the pressure on her. When are you going to tell Jennifer the arrangement I was forced to make with her nurse? I answered, I plan on doing it right now. He shook my hand and stated, good luck to you on this one. I thought, yeah, I'm going to need luck to get Jennifer to agree with this, and headed toward her room. Flashback, Jens, at the military hospital. I finished sewing my other shoe, tried it on, and was quite proud of my work since both shoes fit me like a glove. However, they did bunch up some when I was in point. I looked forward to having the custom shoes. All the other girls in my ballet school were going to be so jealous, because they looked much better. I took off my shoes and thought about what I should do concerning the gross email Robert sent me when there was a knock at the door and Daddy said, Jennifer, can I come in? This was perfect. Perhaps Daddy could do something about this problem. At least he should know about it now that I finally had proof that Ro frickin' Bear was a nasty pervert. I answered, Daddy, please come in. I need some help with a problem. Daddy walked into the room, gave me a rather strange smile, and said, Jennifer, I have a couple things to tell you. I smiled at Daddy and answered, I think my problem will take some time, so you go first. He gave me normal smile and stated, first the JA and I persuaded your mother to enter the alcoholic rehabilitation program. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, she said she was very sorry about what she did to you. I jumped up and down, smiled and said, that's great news. I hope we get Mother back to where she was before. What's the second thing you need to tell me? Daddy gave me that strange smile again and answered, Jennifer, I don't know how to tell you this, but the only way we could get your nurse to agree to drop the child abuse charges against your mother was to agree that you will go and live with her for several months when you leave the hospital. My mouth fell open and I complained, what in the frackin' heck? I don't want to live with her. In fact, without Mother at home, you're going to need my help around the house. Daddy shook his head and answered, Jennifer, we don't really have a choice in the matter. This is something you're going to need to do for the family. And don't worry about me. I will hire a housekeeper to take care of the house while both my women are gone. Now what's your problem? I opened my computer, clicked on the offensive email, show him the gross pictures and complained, Daddy, they did this right here in my room, on my bed, and that Ro frickin' Bear pervert said he can't wait to do this to me. I don't think I've ever seen Daddy that angry before. Flashback, Alexei, on the way home. I had a problem with tactics as I was not sure how far to push the acting like a dog ruse. Part of me wanted to even go to the bathroom outside, but the other part of me told me it might possibly be too much. We stopped at the store on the way home, and Mother said, I will be right back with the pelmeni. I reminded her, don't forget the milk bones. She glared at me, and I could tell immediately I wasn't going to get any milk bones. Then I came up with the best idea ever. Flashback, Safia, in Israel. Thank God I escaped from the room before I was caught in the quagmire. However, I ran right into Ahmed and he asked, what are you running away from? I knew I should have honestly told him. However, I decided that after he had been sneaking extra food, he deserved additional complications, so I lied. Mira and Iris sent me to find you. They are in the library. He foolishly headed into the library, and I continued my escape. Flashback, Todd, on the island. The masked troops. The scumsuckers had brought a new group of women captives to the island, and after seeing the torture chambers in the compound, I could easily imagine what was in store for them. I looked at Lou, she looked at me, and I understood that we were not going to let this happen. I wondered how we would stop this travesty with only primitive weapons when Lou totally surprised me. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.